March 22, 1945, 2200 hours. The west bank of the Rhine River, near Oppenheim. The night is moonless. The water of the Rhine River is black, cold, and fast, a dark artery pulsing through the heart of the German Reich. For 2,000 years, this river has been more than just water. It is a myth. It is the sacred moat of the German people, the barrier that stopped the Romans, the barrier that is supposed to stop the Allies. On the east bank, German sentries of the 7th Army are huddled in their slit trenches. They are tired, they are cold, but they are not panicked. They are comforting themselves with a very specific piece of military logic. Americans are loud. The German High Command knows that Field Marshal Montgomery is preparing to cross the Rhine to the north. They can hear him. For weeks, Montgomery has been stockpiling artillery, moving supplies, and laying smoke screens. It is the buildup of a massive, lumbering beast. The Germans have moved their reserves to meet him. They are waiting for the hammer to fall in the north. They do not suspect that the knife is already at their throat here in the south. Crouched in the mud on the west bank, General George S. Patton is doing something the German Manual of War says is impossible. He is launching an amphibious assault across the widest river in Germany without an artillery barrage, without a smokescreen, without a single aerial bomb. He is doing it with silence. The men of the U.S. 5th Infantry Division are ghosting toward the water. There is no shouting. Equipment is taped down to prevent rattling. The only sound is the soft scuff-scuff of boots on wet grass and the lapping of the river against the canvas sides of the assault boats. Patton watches them go. He is a man who loves the pageantry of war, the pearl-handled revolvers, the polished helmet, the speeches. But tonight, he is playing the assassin. He knows that the German 1st and 7th Armies are reeling, trapped in a chaotic retreat. He knows that if he waits for the proper supplies, the Germans will dig in. He turns to his staff officers, his voice a low growl. I want to be across this river before those Kraut bastards even have time to put their pants on. At 22:30, the first wave of assault boats pushes off. The current grabs them. The soldiers paddle furiously, lungs burning, eyes straining against the darkness of the far bank. They wait for the flare. They wait for the rip of the MG-42 machine guns that will turn the river into a slaughterhouse. But the darkness holds. The boats crunch onto the gravel of the east bank. American boots hit the soil of the German heartland, and still there is silence. It isn't until the first platoon is already scrambling up the embankment that a lone German sentry realizes the impossible has happened. A flare pops, bathing the river in harsh, trembling white light. A single machine gun opens up, firing wildly into the night. But it is too late. The dam has broken. As the alarm sirens begin to wail in the villages of the Rhineland, Patton's engineers are already pushing floating bridges into the water. They aren't just sending a raid, they are sending an entire armored corps. While the German High Command is staring at maps of the north, waiting for Montgomery's set-piece battle, Patton has just kicked down the back door of the Third Reich. And he hasn't just crossed a river, he has closed a trap that has been snapping shut for 10 days. A trap that has already swallowed the last coherent defense of the German West. March 23, 1945, 10 a.m. The pontoon bridge at Oppenheim. The sun rises over a scene that defies the logic of the First World War. In 1918, crossing the Rhine would have cost 100,000 lives. Today, it cost General Patton 28 men. By mid-morning, the U.S. Army engineers, working with a speed that terrifies the German observers watching from the hills, have spanned the mighty river with a treadway bridge. It is a floating road of steel and wood, bobbing under the weight of Sherman tanks that are roaring across into the heart of Germany. General George S. Patton walks halfway across the bridge. He stops. The cameras are clicking. He looks down at the Rhine, the river of Wagnerian myth, the sacred water of the Teutonic Knights. And then he unzips his fly. With a grin that is equal parts arrogance and relief, Patton urinates directly into the river. It is a gesture of supreme disrespect. It is a message sent not via radio, but via attitude. He turns to his staff and shouts over the roar of the tank engines, "I've been looking forward to this for a long time." He then bends down, scoops up a handful of dirt from the east bank, and lets it crumble through his fingers. He has done what Napoleon struggled to do. He has done what Montgomery is still planning to do. Back at headquarters, Patton dictates a message to General Omar Bradley. It is perhaps the pettiest, most satisfying telegram of the war. "I have crossed the Rhine," Patton reports. "I did not need artillery. I did not need air support. And I certainly did not need the British Navy." It is a direct slap in the face to Field Marshal Montgomery, who is currently assembling 4,000 guns and 100,000 men just a few miles downstream for his own Operation Plunder. Montgomery is treating the crossing like a D-Day invasion. Patton treated it like a commute. But the crossing is only half the story. The reason the crossing was so easy is because of what happened before the boats hit the water. This is the Palatinate Trap. In the days leading up to the crossing, Patton and General Alexander Patch of the 7th Army executed a brutal pincer movement west of the Rhine. They drove the German 1st and 7th Armies into a shrinking triangle of land. The Germans retreated. They assumed they could cross the Rhine and blow the bridges, putting the water between them and the Americans. They were wrong. Patton's tanks moved faster than the retreating Germans. He cut them off. He pinned them against the riverbank. Now, on the morning of March 23rd, the result of that trap becomes visible. It is a sea of field gray. 50,000 German soldiers are surrendering. They are not fighting to the last bullet for the Führer. They are emerging from the woods with their hands clasped behind their heads. These are not just raw conscripts. These are the remnants of the panzer divisions, the hardening crust of the Western Front. They line the roads for miles. They look at the American equipment rolling past them, the endless trucks, the fresh uniforms, the sheer industrial might, and they realize they have been lied to. They were told the Americans were broken. Instead, the Americans are looking for the next gas station on the road to Berlin. But miles away, in a bunker buried deep beneath the Reich Chancellery in Berlin, the map tells a different story, a story of delusion. Adolf Hitler stands over the situation map. His hand travels with a tremor that he can no longer hide. He looks at the Rhine, the river of Wagnerian myth, the sacred water of the Teutonic Knights. And then he unzips his fly. With a grin that is equal parts arrogance and relief, Patton urinates directly into the river. It is a gesture of supreme disrespect. It is a message sent not via radio, but via attitude. He turns to his staff and shouts over the roar of the tank engines. He didn't wait. Why didn't he wait? It is the question of a man whose entire worldview is based on order, structure, and control, suddenly confronting the chaos of American initiative. Hitler expected a battle. Patton gave him a race. And the race is heading straight for the heart of Germany. March 28, 1945. The Autobahn, east of Frankfurt. The road to the heart of Germany is paved with good intentions and crushed vehicles. General Patton stands in his command jeep, dust coating his goggles, watching his Third Army tear through the German countryside. They are moving so fast that the maps are useless. Commanders are using Michelin tourist guides seized from French gas stations to navigate the German towns. This is the rat race. The German front hasn't just broken, it has shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. Because Patton didn't wait for Montgomery, because he didn't wait for the heavy artillery, he has achieved the holy grail of armored warfare, the breakout. To the north, Field Marshal Montgomery has finally crossed the Rhine. He did it with a massive, thunderous set-piece battle involving 4,000 guns and an airborne drop. It was magnificent. It was textbook. But it was too slow. By the time Montgomery gets his T and his tanks across the river, Patton is already 80 miles deep in the German rear. He is capturing towns by telephone, calling the local burgomaster and telling him to hang out a white sheet or be leveled. In the Führer bunker, the reality of the situation is inducing a psychotic break. Adolf Hitler is looking at reports that make no sense. He sees American tank columns appearing in towns that were supposed to be safe rear areas. He sees entire divisions vanishing from the board. The 50,000 men captured in the Palatinate were just the appetizer. Now an even bigger disaster is looming. Patton swings his army north. He isn't heading for Berlin. He is heading for the back of the German Army Group B, Field Marshal Model's force, which is still facing west, trying to stop the other allies. It is a maneuver of terrifying elegance. Patton acts as the hammer. The U.S. First Army acts as the anvil. On April 1st, the trap snaps shut near the town of Lippstadt. Inside the Ruhr pocket, over 300,000 German soldiers are trapped. It is a defeat larger than Stalingrad. It is the death of the Wehrmacht in the West. Field Marshal Walter Model, a dedicated Nazi and Hitler's best defensive tactician, sends a desperate message to Berlin. My army has no fuel. My army has no ammo. We are fighting tanks with rifles. Hitler's response is a window into madness. He does not order a retreat. He does not order a surrender. On March 19, just days before Patton's crossing, Hitler had issued the Nero Decree. If the war is lost, he reasoned, the German people do not deserve to survive. He orders the destruction of everything, every bridge, every factory, every water treatment plant, every rail line. He wants to turn Germany into a desert to spite the victors. But here's the final humiliation. The German generals, the men who swore oaths of loyalty to him, stop listening. Albert Speer, the armaments minister, travels frantically across the Reich, countermanding Hitler's orders. Field Marshal Model dissolves his army group, telling his men to go home, before walking into the woods and shooting himself in the head. Patton's speed has stripped the Nazi regime of its authority. You cannot enforce a scorched earth policy when the enemy tanks are already in your driveway. The 1,000-year Reich has weeks to live. But Patton isn't looking at the history books. He is looking at something much darker. As his tanks roll into the town of Ohrdruf, the smell hits them first. It isn't the smell of battle. It is the smell of death on an industrial scale. April 4th, 1945. Ohrdruf, Germany. The speed of the Third Army was a tactical miracle, but it came with a terrifying price. By moving so fast, by cutting through the German rear like a knife, Patton ripped the cover off the Nazi machine before they had time to hide their secrets. Up until now, the war has been about maps. It has been about bridges, fuel dumps, and tank divisions. It has been a game of chess played with high explosives. But at Ohrdruf, the game ends. As the jeeps of the 4th Armored Division roll into the camp, the soldiers stop. They are veterans. They have seen friends blown apart by artillery. They have seen the carnage of the Falaise Gap. They think they are hardened, but nothing prepares a human being for the smell of Ohrdruf. General Patton arrives a few days later, accompanied by Generals Bradley and Eisenhower. Patton is the ultimate warrior. He writes poetry about the glory of conflict. He wears a polished helmet and riding breeches. He loves the god of war. But as he walks past the pyre, a railroad track stacked with the charred, half-burned bodies of prisoners the SS tried to destroy before running away, the god of war vomits. He turns away, his face the color of ash. He refuses to go into the shed where the bodies are stacked like cordwood. This is the moment the war changes for the American soldier. It is no longer about territory. It is no longer about politics or strategy. It is about extermination. Patton composes himself. The sickness is replaced by a cold, Old Testament fury. He realizes that the speed of his advance, the very thing Hitler complained about, was the only thing that prevented the SS from finishing the job here. If he had waited for Montgomery, if he had waited for artillery, these witnesses would be ash. He orders the MPs to go into the town of Ohrdruf. He orders them to round up the mayor and the prominent citizens, the people who claimed they didn't know. Bring them here, Patton orders. Make them look. The German civilians are marched through the gates. Some weep, some faint, some stare blankly. The mayor of Ohrdruf and his wife go home that night and hang themselves. Patton writes to his wife, Beatrice, "The bluster is gone. I have never felt so low," he admits. The realization hits him that the enemy he has been fighting isn't just a rival army, it is a death cult. But even as the horror of the camps is revealed, the strategic reality on the map has become a rout. The Third Army is unstoppable. They are running off the edges of their own maps. Hitler, deep in his bunker, is now moving imaginary divisions. He is screaming about betrayal. He is ordering the flooding of the Berlin subway. He has shrunk from the master of Europe to the master of a concrete basement. On April 30th, 1945, with the Russians a block away, Hitler puts a pistol in his mouth and pulls the trigger. The 1,000-year Reich ends, and it ends in large part because it couldn't solve the problem of a cowboy general who refused to stop at the river. December 9th, 1945, near Mannheim, Germany. The guns are silent. The Rhine flows peacefully, carrying commercial barges instead of assault boats. George C. Patton is restless. The war is over, and for a man like him, peace is a kind of death. He is a man out of time, a Roman centurion living in the atomic age. He lobbies to fight the Russians. He insults his superiors. He is a sword that can no longer be sheathed, so he is becoming dangerous to the hand that holds him. He goes pheasant hunting. It is a mundane, quiet Sunday drive. Then a collision. A slow-moving truck turns in front of his staff car. It is a minor accident, a fender bender. Everyone else in the car is fine. But Patton is paralyzed. He lies in a hospital bed in Heidelberg for 12 days. The man who survived 2 world wars, who walked through artillery fire, who stood on the open bridge of a tank while bullets pinged off the steel, is brought down by a traffic accident. He whispers to his wife, "This is a hell of a way to die." On December 21st, 1945, General George C. Patton dies in his sleep. He is buried in Luxembourg, not back home in California, but in the Ham American Cemetery. He requested to be buried with his men. If you go there today, you won't find him in a special crypt or a grand mausoleum. You will find him at the head of the formation. His white cross is identical to the thousands of others arranged in front of him. He is still commanding his Third Army, facing west, forever ready to attack. History remembers the speeches. It remembers the pearl-handled revolvers and the slapping incidents. But the German generals remembered something else. When they wrote their memoirs, when they tried to explain to history why they lost, they pointed to the Rhine. They pointed to the moment when logic dictated the Americans should stop, regroup, and plan. And they pointed to the general who looked at the greatest natural barrier in Europe, unzipped his fly, and said, "Don't wait for the bridge, we're going across."